Hello, viewers. I hope you are doing very well. I'm here to talk briefly about my book, Reading the Bible Anew, which was just published this year, 2024. Now, why are you writing that book? While I was a student at Stellenbosch University, 2012, 2013, 2014, I read this book. It was recommended to me by one of my teachers, Professor Louis Lonka. And this book is called Fishing for Jonah, published in 2005. Now, that book is about hermeneutics, about interpretation. Various approaches to biblical interpretation have been examined, illustrated, and presented for all and sundry. Whoever wants to know how to approach Bible interpretation are given clues, patterns, illustrations in that book. Now, I felt the richness of that book must also be communicated wider than that South African context. So I wanted to have a further conversation with that material to help myself and my students to understand the trends of interpretation of the Bible much deeper and wider. That's why I thought of writing this book to help students in West Africa, in East Africa, Central Africa, to also see how possible they can come to biblical interpretation from a multidimensional perspective. Now, multidimensionality is not a method, but it's a perspective, it's an approach to biblical interpretation. And so in this book, there are three parts. Firstly, I surveyed or explored trends in biblical interpretation. And I discovered that biblical interpretation is quite low or very much minimal among African theologians. I'm not saying nobody does anything, but those who are focused on biblical interpretation, NTOT, are quite in the minority. So this book is a challenge and an open invitation for more biblical scholars to get interested in engaging in the work of interpretation. Because understanding the text is all that is required for theology to really be itself. But when you miss the text, then you miss theology altogether. The second aspect is a presentation of various methods of biblical interpretation. I illustrated historical method, literary method, theological method, ideological method, and canonical method to help especially students of hermeneutics to find handy methods in their approach to biblical interpretation. And the last section is an illustration of creative ways of biblical interpretation. How do you creatively use the notion of history? Historical consciousness, as discussed by Professor Louis Lonka, is also harnessed and illustrated. And Elder Moton presents us with new ways, new eyes of seeing the text, of listening to the text, of reading the text rightly, and that has also been illustrated and engaged with. And then Gerald West and Sarojini Nadar, among others who are contextually inclined or contextually aware, have invited us to read the text together with the ordinary reader. Whether you are intellectually sound, wide, and vast, and this person is just maybe a widow or in a rural context, they read the text. How does she read this text? What comes out of her reading, and how do you engage her perspective? So this book is helping us to see how to read the Bible anew. And the latter part, close to the end, is a warning. The dangers of ideological reading. Because sometimes we read the text ideologically for our own benefit, for the service of power, so that we remain in charge of things. We're afraid of being vulnerable even before the text. So the reading the Bible anew is an invitation to be vulnerable, to be open, to be ready, to see the text, to hear the text, to feel the text, and to communicate the text in a responsible manner. So I hope this will be an added challenge and an open invitation to you and more in our journey of Bible interpretation in African context. Thank you very much.